Welcome along, everybody, to another little mini podcast. I recorded this little mini podcast last September with the lovely Mr. Aaron Harwood. Yeah, last September, I was kicking around the idea of having a podcast. And so I thought I would record a couple of sample ones to just sort of see how it would all feel. And so I enlisted the help of two very good friends, the lovely Miss Valerie Miller, who you've already seen her mini podcast as well as her full length podcast. So, this next mini podcast is with local musician and singer songwriter Aaron Harwood. So, we recorded this just to sort of see how things would look and sound and feel. So, rather than having this conversation get exiled into the archives, I thought, let's release it on its own. Now, just last week, Aaron and I recorded a full length hour long podcast, which will get released later on this month. And on that full length episode, we do a deep dive into Ron's daily routine, how he looks after his mental health. What does he do to cultivate and nurture a growth mindset? How is he resting himself properly? What are the tools that he uses? Because he's got a really interesting and very unique and very effective daily routine for himself. So I'm really excited to share all of that with you. But in this mini podcast, we go into the ins and outs of his songwriting and how that has helped his mental health and his mental well-being, and how it not only helps him, but it also helps the audience. So it's a really cool conversation. So enjoy this mini pod, and the separate full-length podcast just recorded this month will be released later on this month. So enjoy.
And then I started having like ideas. I think I had a song and decided I wanted to just make, I had an idea of what I wanted to do with, I think it would have been like the second song that I wrote. So I'd written lyrics and music, but then I decided what I wanted to do was write sort of an old school, sort of cheesy rock song that was a bit tongue in cheek and a bit naughty, I guess. So I did that, and then that was even more fun. People seemed to enjoy it. And then I realized that what I could do was journal the things that I was thinking and put them into lyrics in a song. So I've been writing lyrics for probably since about 18 or 19, but never really had the competency to write the music. And once I'd given myself that time, I was able to put the songs together. And then once I realized I could basically write a journal and then go and sing it, I got to the point where I was like, well, this is a great outlet for me to say the things that I want to say. And rather than write them in an actual journal and then get put away, maybe never visited again, if I keep going out and playing these songs and singing these songs, I can release some of the things that have been playing on my mind, say some of the things that I feel about the world and all of that. And that really began to help me not be too bothered about what other people think of me. You know, I'm writing a song, people will enjoy it or they won't enjoy it. But I get to say what I want to say, and I get to keep revisiting it. So it's kind of like if you'd written a journal and then you went back to it and kept reassessing and reassessing. But I got to do that while there was a lot of other people in the room. I got to do that with the buzz of being on the stage and stuff like that. And it really, really helped me get things off my chest.
Yeah.
And that has really been a massive benefit to me. And it's one of those things where, like last year, I got to say the things that I wanted to say in my original songs. And like I said, just really helped me sort of journal this stuff that, unless you're in a conversation or a room full of sort of like-minded people, some of these things don't always come up. So it's hard to get them off your chest.
Yeah.
And if these are the things that eat you every day and you don't get to talk about them, I found that they would sit at the back of my mind, but I got to get these things out and see them, sing them out, you know, loud and proud, and just be like, hey, this is how I feel, and I'm going to tell you all about it, and you can love it or hate it. It's
Amazing.
entirely up to you.
So if I'm hearing you right, so you went back to those journals all the way back to when you were 18, and are some of the songs that you're singing today have lyrics from back then?
Unfortunately, the machine that I had a lot of my original writings on got corrupted at
Oh
some point,
no.
and I got to save quite a lot of the information, but unfortunately, the folder that had my original poems didn't.
Ah,
But what I have done recently uh, was I had a chorus that had stuck with me since those times, probably since I was about 19 or 20. So we're talking 18 years. And I recently sort of redid that song. And I'm in an annoying position. I sliced my finger open last weekend and haven't been able to play guitar. And
oh no.
I was like, right, I'm going to demo this song now. And I'd spoken to a couple of people to play the other instruments on this particular song. So yeah, the may not have lived on the computer that I'd written them down on, but somehow they've lived on in my head, and obviously I've had a lot of other thoughts since then. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amazing.
yeah.
But you're right. So, what I love about what you've just described about going out there, and I've always thought this about especially musicians and singer-songwriters, and it's almost always it's gonna be very autobiographical, isn't it? Most of pretty much any singer-songwriter. And not just is it going to be autobiographical, but it's going to be the very depths of your emotions and your feelings and what as you say, unless it's a very deep conversation you're having with a close friend, nobody's going out and shouting these sort of things, but it's vital as the audience too, to be able to connect and to be able to hear. Maybe let's take for example, if it might be something a challenging topic or a painful topic, to be able to convey it in a beautiful way, to see the beauty in the pain and to share
Mhm.
that with other people. That's the magic, isn't it? So it's
Yeah,
amazing for you and it's amazing for them as well. And then there's a
hopefully.
third sort of thing happening there where it's both the
Hmm.
energy that happens.
The connection is
Yes.
great. And another thing that just sprung to my mind as well is obviously I get to decide what I put out there.
Yes.
And I talked about my partner before. She lost her dad a few years ago, and I distinctly remember through a time of grieving that she was saying, "I'm never going to get to hear his voice again."
Yeah.
And we have a child, and another thing that I've realized is the more that I do this, and the more that I record, and the more things that I say, I can be heard after I'm no longer here,
Yes.
and I can pass little snippets of wisdom that I've accrued along the way, and write them down in my little audio journal that I'm sort of making of since I began recording music. And then, when I'm not here, whenever my daughter wants to hear my voice, she'll be able to hear it, and she'll be able to, she's going to have struggles and turbulent times in her life. And she's being, like you say, she's going to be able to connect and say, oh, well, my dad had these struggles as well. And he's put this out here, and I can listen to what he's got to say. And that's kind of what I hope will happen, whether or not it will, like,
Yeah.
we shall see.
Oh,
But I think that's
that's
a beautiful part of it as well.
it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Absolutely. And it's wonderful that, it's wonderful that you are recording your music properly. There are so many artists out there that aren't, and that may never be able to do what
Hmm.
what you're doing, passing down to generations the thoughts and the feelings, and because we are our ancestors, aren't we? We
Hmm.
not just the immediate, but you know, your recordings will carry on through the generations, and you know, the more that we can learn about the epigenetics of what makes us who we are, you know, the richer our lives become, I think. So yeah, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, hopefully, like I say, it can be helpful even when I'm not here to be helpful. And I think that has turned in. So I've gone from this journal that I talked about to, I think, that being my main reason for doing it now, and then let some magic happen during the process of actually recording. Because every time you play a song, it'll be slightly different. You'll have
Yeah,
slightly different thoughts in your head. You'll have slightly different feelings. And I think it was Dave Grohl who said, the great thing about songwriting is, for him, you can play a song in front of, I can't remember what the number was. He was like, you can play a song in front of 30,000 people and they can sing it back for 30,000 different reasons.
yeah,
And yeah,
yes, yes, exactly. And you know, I mean, the 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 challenges that you just spoke about, the various different ones, from, you know, losing those files on your computer to injuring yourself. You know, this is life, and it's almost sort of a kind of a metaphor for life, that, you know, life is going to throw us challenges, but that doesn't mean that we're just going to go, oh, right, well, I'm just going to stop now, or I'm just going to give up. It's like, no, we keep moving forward. We keep this passion alive, no matter what.
yeah, I agree. I agree. So I'm forever writing things down, and it might just be I'll have an interesting conversation with someone like yourself, and it might make me think something, or they might just say something, and I'll just write that down. And it just, when I give it time, or when the moment strikes, I can find a song in 10 minutes.
Gee,
You know, the sort of idea arises,
yeah.
and that can be right there, right then. I'm like, oh, I've got the time, I'll write that down, and then I end up following it through. Or like I say, I'll just write a word or a line or a thought down, and then the next time creativity strikes, I'll go back to that. And yeah, I sort of
Amazing.
marry things together. I have loads and loads of lyrics, and then I'll just pick up my guitar and I'll come up with a melody line, and then eventually I just try and figure out what the best pairing is to marry these two things together. It's very rare that I come up with all of it at the same time. It's like
Sure.
a jigsaw puzzle for me.
Yeah.
I get all the pieces first, I lay them out, and then I put them together when I've got the time to put them together. So
It's fascinating. I've always been fascinated by, especially that I've done a lot of writing poetry over the years. So that aspect of writing lyrics, I can completely understand and get on board with. But my mind is continually blown how people manage to come up with original tune. Every time I'm trying to come up with a melody, it's like, no, that's actually a song that already exists.
it's
And
pretty
so,
cool.
and listening to other, lots of different people out there. Some people, yeah, do the lyrics first and then the melody second, or the other way around. It sounds like you've got kind of like a, it's different every time. And yeah, I'm fascinated by it. Do you ever run into that issue of, oh, wait a second, no, that's a melody that already
some
exists?
sometimes yes, and sometimes it might just come from learning someone else's melody, and I'll stumble my way through it, and I'll either get it, or I'll be trying to do it from memory,
Yeah.
and then end up um put my finger in the wrong place, or strumming different. Oh, that, I like that. Oh, that sounds good. So it can
Yeah.
be it can be born from. I mean, every musician that has ever written a song has got musical influences, and if your influences aren't coming out in your songs, I don't think you're doing it correctly. You know, you're always
Yeah,
going to be there or thereabouts.
exactly. And I think that's such an important point. I would imagine there's probably not very many people writing melodies that aren't that don't play an instrument. Like you can't.
Mhm.
It probably happens as you are playing the instrument rather than thinking of the melody in your head. Or I don't know. Maybe that might happen as well. It's
When I'm struck by a creative idea, if it's just words that come to me, the words always come to me with a melody. So this will all occur
wow.
in my brain. And then other times I can hear everything. Like I can hear the drums, I can hear the guitar, I can hear the differences between the two. And then the actual difficult part is not so much the creation, it's the putting that onto the instrument.
Yeah.
It's to
Okay.
emulate that sound that I can
Right.
hear in my head.
If I could sing or play an instrument for you, I would sing and play an instrument for you. If I could dance for you, I would dance for you. If I could paint for you, I would paint for you. But my thing is words. But the problem about words is that you may listen to them.
And that would be a mistake.